Now, for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning, let's bring in a RISE analyst, Dr. Constance Ikoku. Good morning, Constance.
Good morning, Charles. How are we today?
We're good. In fact, very good.
Okay, good to hear that. Very good. Yolanda, and you?
Good morning. I'm doing well, thank you. And yourself?
I am doing great.
That's
Wonderful
great.
to see you guys.
You forgot to add, thank God it's Friday.
Oh, well, that's
in
already...
fact, thank God it's Good Friday.
That's already jaded. Okay. Oh, it's Easter. Yes. I forgot. Okay. It's Easter weekend. How time flies. It's already April. I mean,
oh, yeah.
We're inching towards the end of April, actually. Wow.
Imagine.
Wonderful. Okay, to look at the papers with us today, we have Dr. Austin Maho. He is a lecturer at the International Institute of Journalism in Abuja. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with This Day.
Good morning.
In This Day this morning, we have NGF warns violence will negatively affect Plateau's agriculture tourism potential. Chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, Governor of Kwara State, Abdulrahman Abdulrazak, made this statement while visiting Plateau State. He appealed for peace when he was there. Dr. Maho, I'm not sure what to make of this story. It's part of the fallout from Plateau killings. Is it significant for the NGF to add their voice to what's going on? I mean, what fresh angles are there to explore here?
I don't think any. But however, it is necessary that they went to Plateau on a solidarity visit with one of their colleagues as a result of the tragedy that has bedeviled the state. You know, we have back-to-back what many people have declared as a genocide in the Plateau. It started at Bokos, then to Bassa local government, where you have cumulative over 100 persons were killed. However, my concern is that, look, beyond talking, there seems to be so much motion without movement. We want to see a situation where the killings in the Plateau is tackled headlong, not making all these empty speeches. To me, at times, it seems as if you just, go to your archive, dig up something which you read out when something like that happened in the past and you are reading it over and over again. It doesn't give confidence to the people who have to face these terrorists over and over again. After this visit now, let me ask you, Doc, are you sure is this the end of the crisis in the Plateau? Can we confidently say that these attacks will not happen again when in actual fact, those who are responsible for it, as far as I'm concerned, they are not known. The Plateau State government, the federal government itself, have not been able to profile those who are responsible for this persistent attack on the Plateau. Are they herdsmen? Are they jihadist element? Are they Boko Haram? Is it ISWAP? Is it Lukarawa? Is it unknown government? We need to be able to confront a crime of this nature. You need to be able to profile who are these people doing this. When you know them, then you now have enough information for us in the media to be able to comment and make recommendations to government and hold government accountable for whatever action it decides to take against those perpetrating this genocide in the Plateau.
Indeed, it seems like we're moving in circles when it comes to the crisis in the Middle Belt. Let's see Daily Independent this morning. Tinubu overseeing developments in Nigeria from Europe, according to the presidency. Well, there you have it for those who were asking the president to cut short his trip in France in light of happenings within Nigeria. They say he's working remotely and that it doesn't affect anything. Any comments on this, Dr. Maho?
We can make a lot of comment on this. What it gives is a sense of deja vu. Here we go again. We went through all this kind of crisis as a nation, 8 years of the last administration of Muhammadu Buhari. He spent a significant amount of his time in office, visiting his doctors in London. And unfortunately, to date, nobody has come up. He never told us what ailed him. So all we were left with is sympathizing with somebody. We don't know what is wrong with him. So when I say deja vu, here we go again. The same thing is playing out. Just less than 2 years into President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's tenure in office, we are confronted again with this rigmarole of a president who is supposed to sit back and address the humongous challenges we are facing as a country. We just spoke about what is happening in the Plateau now, but his aides, they are trying to gaslight us and tell us that the president can rule Nigeria from anywhere. Yeah. He can, you know, look at that tent, he can rule remotely. It's the same thing. I remember Michael Andoka, then Attorney General of the Federation, who equally told us that Buhari can rule from anywhere. Must we continue like this as a nation? It is sad. It is sad that it seems we are not learning. Whatever ails the president, nobody has immunity from being sick. You should tell us what's wrong with you. After all, I remember on the 13th of April, President Donald Trump made his health record. He made it public. Yes. And everybody could tell, oh, because at the end of the day, we have all, as citizens of this country, invested our trust, our hope in him. He is a public figure. He belongs to the Nigerian people. So we should know what is wrong with him if he's sick.
Right. I think, you know, yesterday we were discussing that front page. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago on Nigerians that made the Time 100 influential list, excuse me, and we talked about how Nigerians are great in every sector of life, doing wonderful things. But when it comes to politics and the political terrain, we seem to condone any and everything in this country, and we behave as if it doesn't matter. And that is why whatever is happening continues. And so we'll stay on that Daily Independent front page. There's another story there which talks about attack on Benue about land grabbing, says Governor Alia. This is a sentiment that has been expressed by Nigerians in the past, sometimes in hushed tones. But Charles, I'll come to you for the governor to publicly say this and to have it on record. Do you think that changes or anything, or what do you think are the implications of that? It does change a whole lot, because I believe the governor is waking up to the reality of the situation. In a not too recent, in a very recent outing, the governor actually did try to defend the fact that you have nomads or cattle herders grazing across the country, and he quoted the ECOWAS protocol, that allows them, in his own judgment, to move across the land freely. But I guess he's also coming to understand that it's not all black and white. There are gray areas that need to be tackled. And of course, the issue here is that of not just land grabbing, but grazing land. That has been the problem between the settlers or the residents and the nomads. That has been the issue, and I'm very glad that the governor is also beginning to understand that that's the situation he's facing, because he previously had been in denial. So now the truth is staring him in the face, and at least he's bold enough to come out to confront the situation. Yeah. The point Dr. Maho made earlier, I mean, I could have said a whole lot about that, because he talked about those who are perpetrating the killings not being profiled. What did the locals say about it? Because they know their attackers better than whatever other intelligence organization would have to say about it.
Yeah, Charles, I made that statement. We have a lot of confusion over what is happening in the Plateau. One, the federal government itself, if you listen to the statement it issued, it downgraded it to what it called communal clashes. Is it communal clashes that is really happening in the Plateau?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Even the governor itself, at a point, he actually said that, look, there are about 56 communities in Plateau that have been occupied by this jihadist element. So that is why I said, look, we need to really profile what is happening in the Plateau and profile those responsible for it, so that when we comment as media men on this issue, we know we are commenting not from obfuscation, but from a position of knowledge, thorough awareness of what is really happening in the Plateau.
Well, we have to move on to from this story, but when you think about it, we've always had cattle grazers in this country, or herdsmen. We've always had farming communities. We've always lived in peace. But over some years now, there's been crisis. So that means there's something else going on.
when it assumed the
Many
political
yes.
coloration,
Yes.
that is when things started happening. But like I said,
Exactly.
it is something, if we're going to start talking about it, it will just take our time. So
Yeah.
let's just move on.
Very, very
Oh.
true. If I can just
Yes,
jump in
please.
with one point, if you don't mind. Dr. Constance, if you remember when we last spoke about this particular story, I brought up the phrase civil war. And it's looking a lot like that. And it's very scary to just sit back and, ignore and, as Dr. Maho said, downgrade it to just saying, oh, these are just herders. It's time to really address the situation at hand, because the security in not just the area, but in the nation itself. Yesterday I heard reports as well of Abuja now being looked at as a hotspot for, for this type of violence as well. And that is a scary thought to even imagine. So, I mean, the thought of civil war, I bring that up again, is something that we really need to be looking out for, and to make sure that nothing like this happens. But how do we do that if the right action is not being taken?
Good question. We seem to be moving around in circles. Let's move on to the Punch. Here, Gani Adams, others reject Southwest Sharia panels. Gani Adams, the leader of Yoruba One Voice, a self-determination group, says introduction of Sharia law could destabilize the Southwest region. It says it's a ploy to weaponize religion in the region for political purposes. Adams further says this will fuel unrest and extremist tendencies and will not improve the economy, the political and cultural fortunes of Yorubas. Another very sensitive topic, religion. As much as there are those that are pushing for Sharia law in the Southwest, something this will totally shatter the peace that exists in that region between two religions. This is being viewed as political. And Dr. Maho, essentially, people are toying with fire, aren't we here?
Certainly, I don't know. It's a mystery. At times you ask yourself, why is this coming now? Why now? Why now? Why is you don't create problems when there is none. The Southwest have always enjoyed religious harmony. People will tell you that, look, there's a healthy mix of Christian, Muslim, animist, free thinkers, atheists in the southwestern part of the country. In the southwestern part of the country, you can have a family whereby even Mr. President himself is a Muslim. The wife is a pastor of a popular church in Nigeria.
That's quite common.
Yes, that is why religion is not a problem in the southwestern part of the country. They live harmoniously, irrespective of the different religious sects, obtainable in the southwestern part of the country. But by the time you begin to politicize, one religion and make it seem as if you want to put it in a position of dominance over another, you are precipitating crisis. You are sowing the seed of discord, within that region. And I think the statement by Gani Adams is a wake-up call. Look, let's not drift along this line. It's a warning and a wake-up call that, look, leaders of this region, they should be up to their responsibility and not allow this blossom into a full crisis in the Southwest.
It is politics. Let's move on to The Guardian. Gencos get 2 trillion naira pledge from FG to avert blackout. That's a pledge. It's not been paid. That's a pledge. But let's also see another story in The Guardian. Schools, teachers cite concerns, search for academic integrity. This is in regard to AI and the threat it poses to schools. We have that funny cartoon there to illustrate the story. You have cheating students on the left saying we need to make it look real to evade AI detection tools. And then you have the teacher on the right saying, why are these essays similar? I mean, Charles, you're not that you can jump in there. This is a real problem. Yes. Plagiarism and intellectual laziness due to artificial intelligence.
Yes, and I don't think that this is just a Nigerian problem.
No,
actually.
no, it's not.
I think this is a problem that is faced all over the world, especially with the introduction of AI. It's now people are becoming more, more technologically advanced in their approach towards how they use these type of technologies. But I mean, I think we need a lot of learning for not just the students, but for the teachers as well, in how to actually use these technologies. Charles and I were speaking, I think a few weeks ago, about AI and how important it is, but how averse he is to this type of thing. And I think many people are. Charles, I don't know if you have anything to say about that concerning our conversation.
There are two AIs, artificial intelligence, academic integrity. And both are variants with each other.
One.
You know, AI is the new thing. I mean, it's what definitely we will be adopting, just like we adopted the use of mobile phones and mobile technology. AI is the next great thing, but how we handle it, I think, it needs a good dose of introspection.
Yeah.
If the checks are not being instituted right now, it might just, you know, change society completely different from what we know it to be, and it's not going to be funny at all.
Dr. Constance, maybe you just allow me to come in here. I'm a teacher, you know, I'm a lecturer.
Oh, yes,
international
I forgot, yes.
And often, you know, I'm sharing my personal experience now.
Yes.
You find out that students give you scripts, you give them assignment, they write very beautiful script, and in your mind, when you read it, you know that the answer to this question is AI generated.
Right.
But unfortunately, as a lecturer, you don't have the tools to prove it.
Exactly.
So that is where you have to draw the line between,
Precisely.
like he said, artificial intelligence and
Academic
integrity.
Yeah.
integrity.
Yeah.
You know, is very important. So it's a lot of challenge, you know, going into the future, especially when students begin to master this tool and use it for academic fraud.
And you know, some time ago, last year, I did some interviews for a company recruiting young people, and they were asked to write essays. And when we read those essays, they looked good. Although I could tell that this was, you know, way too advanced in terms of grammar. And then when you did the actual physical interview, they were nothing compared to what they wrote.
Presented.
They were falling short. Wow.
So average students these days have a tool that they use to make themselves look spectacular, but when you meet them in person,
It doesn't reflect in
nothing.
real life.
No. So it is a problem. The other story here in Daily Sun, if you can pull that up, why Nigeria others remain poor, according to Adesina, AFDB boss. He says we have to stop sustained export of raw materials, advising a transition to value-added products. We know that already. And then there's also fresh tension in Plateau. Herdsmen allege poisoning of cows in Basa, but the governor or the government debunks that claim. Let's see what we have on the international headlines. The Times, third spaces could be needed for trans people. Chairperson of the UK Equalities Watchdog said following Supreme Court ruling that trans women were not legally women, it means they may not participate in women's sports, they may not be in single hospital wards, single-sex hospital wards, and changing rooms must be based on biological sex going forward. I mean, essential service providers are a little bit, you know, confused. It would take time to adjust from all of this because the shift was towards accommodating trans women now, the Supreme Court ruling. Any comments or thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think this is a good move because it makes it more palpable, if that's the right word. It makes it easier to digest for everybody else who don't necessarily, you know, have the same beliefs as those in the LGBTQ plus, you know, sector. In that, yesterday we just spoke about women being, that headline again about them being if you're born biologically a woman, then you are a woman. I think this makes it comfortable, you know, to introduce third spaces, to have that dialogue, but kind of away from the mainstream, so people can digest it in smaller chunks. That first approach of coming headlong and saying that, you know, you must accept this, you must accept the way I am because I decide that I want to be a woman, and then you have, you know, men in women's changing rooms, men in women's toilets, men in women's sports. it was a bit too confrontational for me.
Yeah.
I think this is a bit more palpable.
Yes,
okay.
and just to add to that, you know, I always say that it's the trans that are confused about
Yes.
who they are or the gender they are. Well, I came across a cartoon, you know, a few days ago. I just want to share it here. You know, somebody was looking at 100 years from now, maybe a paleontologist, archaeologist, when they excavate the bone of a transgender, how would they identify it? What would they identify it as?
Dr. Maho.
Would they identify it as a
Good point.
trans?
That's a
Dr. Maho, you're lucky you live in Nigeria, because if you lived in the West, I think they'll come for you after
Well.
the show. Okay, let's quickly see I newspaper. In UK under pressure to cut food standards to win trade deal with America. US farmers want to be able to sell beef, pork and chicken to Britain. They also wanted to be able to sell chicken to Nigeria as well. Despite ban on their methods, UK negotiators under huge pressure to weaken food and animal standards to agree on imminent trade deal with the US. Downing Street eager to sign pact and prevent next round of Trump tariffs. I mean, food standards is a big topic between the US and Europe in general, because they feel that the US standards are below par. So it's a shame that, you know, they might fall under pressure. You know, any comment here?
I mean, aren't the food standards low already? We already have major companies that have food that is quote-unquote compromised, such as baby food, formula, you know, milk for children. I think, you know, just bringing this in with farming, I know that's slightly different, but it's in the same category. If we lower our standards any further, everything we're going to be having is GMO. Part of my pride of being in Africa and on the African continent is that most of our food, not all, but most of our food is straight from the ground. It is not tampered with in any way, shape, or form. If standards are now then dropped, that means that we are having more genetically modified organisms in our food, and this affects our health, this affects the way that we live.
That's what Trump wants.
They're very true. Very
I want
true.
us to take this final story. The Guardian. We have at the bottom left-hand corner, Italian Prime Minister Giorgio Meloni, is it? Yeah,
Meloni.
Yeah, Meloni visiting President Donald Trump at the White House with a caption, "Let's make the West great again." Reports say Meloni was warmly received and hopes to make a deal with Trump. Trump praised and she will be having a meeting with VP J.D. Vance in Italy when he visits. Vance is a Catholic. Well, there are no surprises here because Meloni is as far right as they come. You know, we all know that. You know, politically she's aligned with Trump. She and her, you know, party's views, you know, they want the natural family, no LGBTQ lobby, no transgender, no to mass migration. They're against Islamic violence, and the list goes on and on. It looks like they might be able to cut a deal finally before we go. Less than a second. Anybody, Charles, do you want to jump in?
That's the point. I mean, everything about Trump is deal. Anytime you hear about Trump, you know, entertaining
deal
a president or another world, it's about deal. Whatever the differences or similarities, you know, it's all about, I mean, business. As far as Trump is concerned, cut out every other sentiment. It doesn't matter. Deal.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Aston Maho, lecturer at the International Institute of Journalism in Abuja, for being with us here. And I hope we all have a great weekend and happy Easter.
And thank you so much, Dr. Constance, as usual, for driving the newspaper review. Thank God it's Friday. Happy Easter to you. I'm Charles Eruka.
And I'm Yolanda Varbit. We have the morning show next. Do keep it here on Arise News. Goodbye.